Hey everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 242. That's 242, and that's as much hand-eye coordination as I'm going to exhibit today. 3rd, 2017. My name is Russell Frost. I am your host this week. My What Drives Us wingman is in Nebraska, I think still recovering from not looking directly at the eclipse. At least we hope that is his case.
What kind of idiot would do that, though?
Yeah, and, in front of like an enormous public building, like that everyone was watching.
No, nobody'd be so stupid as to do that.
Nobody would. And then there it was anyway. So now that we've broached that subject, thank you, Evan. You baby. Let me introduce the panel that I have with me. The fine gentlemen to explore this week's news in advanced technology and sustainable energy. Thank you very much. So here we go. I have to look at my screen. Let's the man who I think is closest to his camera this week. He is our man in 2 Teslas, 2 more on order, and yeah. Otherwise, he's. Let's talk to Evan Fussell.
Can you see me now?
I don't ever. You know what? That's if I clicked on no. So that came.
Stream closer.
All of a sudden, it's Wayne.
Hey, I'd like to say I'm the owner of 3 Teslas now.
What?
After getting my first referral accepted this week by somebody that I don't know, but maybe follows on one of these shows. I will be getting one of these small little kids electric Teslas. So I am now a 3 Tesla owner. Thank you.
Very nice.
This is going to be, let's see. Yeah, here, wait, we got something going. This is Evan going to work next week. There it is. Yep.
Yep.
You know, Evan, I think you look better without the beard.
I'm taking this jacket.
I didn't know they had convertible models from the factory.
Yeah. And they don't have those arrow wheels either. At least it's in Razorback red. Well, it's also on the show this week, none other than our man in Canada of the WR Voltec Group, the Waterloo Regional Voltec Group. Yeah, that's right. I had to think about that. He took last week off, so I've forgotten who he is. I think his name is still Mark Coughlin.
You are correct. It has remained that way and for the foreseeable future. And last week I was on assignment, so that's more to happen during the show. So welcome, everybody.
Honestly, like you're a spy or something.
On assignment, yes.
Well, speaking of a spy, our man in Portland, I think he saw the totality of the eclipse with his not bare eyes, because he's not an idiot, Mr. Patrick Connor.
That's right. I did see the eclipse, and it was not the car traffic jam Armageddon they were all talking about. It was going to be. There was certainly some traffic, but it wasn't that bad. So that was nice. And if Evan gets to count his toy car, then I have 2 Teslas. It out. Yes. Oh, crash! Autopilot saves the day.
Good. I'm clearly not shopping at the right toy stores. Awful. How is that happening?
So I think it's interesting you said your traffic wasn't that bad. It was pretty terrible here in areas. And then I actually have a friend that was driving to Salt Lake City and barely made 60 miles in 6 hours heading toward Salt Lake City. And it took my wife over 5 hours to get home from Columbia, where she was with my daughter watching the eclipse on a drive that's usually 3. So it was pretty bad in areas. I mean, I think it just depended on what kind of arteries you were looking at and what direction you're traveling.
Patrick's obviously.
Yeah, there was somebody that posted TomTom released a map, and it showed how you could see the path of the totality, and you could see the path of traffic jams.
Oh wow!
It was pretty funny how they lined up really well.
Yeah, not a big surprise, and time. Yeah, I can see over time, like just those red lines start appearing, right?
Right.
So we're both Patrick and Evan in areas where you got 100% eclipse or close to it.
Yep, I was.
Yeah, we were about 97% where I stayed here at work, but my daughter had actually gotten accepted to this kind of cool program with the Girl Scouts that was sponsored by NASA, and she went up to Columbia, Missouri, which was near the peak of the totality. It was like a minute and 39 seconds, and they spent the whole weekend with women astrophysicists and other experts in this, and they spent the whole weekend learning about the eclipse and science and this thing. And then on Monday they went out to one of the Girl Scout camps to watch the eclipse, and then the cloud cover came right as the totality came.
Oh no!
Yeah, yeah. So, like another 2 miles south, they would have been out of the cloud cover, but where they were, it was cloud cover.
Can't plan it any better than that.
Yeah.
Damn.
So hey, it comes by our house though in about 7 years again. So we'll get it that time.
2024, right?
Yeah.
You get it both ways. That's beautiful. I don't really want to go to Texas to see it in 2024.
We can all go hang out at Evans.
Yeah, we should all meet at Evans. I like that idea. And get stuck in traffic for 5 hours. Well, let's talk about the news. Generally, we start out with something that Mr. Connor has dubbed Russell's rant. I don't have a rant this week. I hate to say it. I'm in California. Things are kind of nice. The weather's beautiful. I get in and out regularly. I get all the good grub. Things are okay, so I'm not angry.
You don't want to rant about all the Teslas?
Wow.
It'll take him a couple weeks, and then he'll be back.
All I'm saying is I'm not ranty today, but I do have a little bit of a thing, and it comes from a Green Car Report story. Sean Zimkowski, excuse me, Sean Zimkowski wrote that announced electric cars are now 5% of California's new car sales. And for years, we heard this would never happen. This would be impossible. And let's be clear before we even dig into this, because I'm sure some of you out there are going, but it doesn't happen anywhere else in the United States. You might be right. California is unique in that it's a CARB state. Not that isn't unique, but in that it has been very aggressive in getting people away from fossil fuel cars. And guess what? It works. If you incentivize people and you give them reasons to buy non-fossil fuel driven cars, they will. And that's where we are today. 5%, it seems like a small part of the market. But, there for a long, long time, a lot of people were saying it'll never be more than a niche product. We heard it with hybrids. We heard it with EVs, that nobody wanted them. And all of a sudden, it turns out people want them. People buy them. People love them. People get passionate about them. So cheers to my fellow Californians for hitting that, Mark. And I look forward to celebrating more of these in the coming days. Any comments, kids?
Congratulations, California.
Yeah.
That's a great achievement to get into the 5% bracket. And it's something that we're all aspiring to from our different areas. But California has been leading the way, and it's good to see that they've achieved this milestone.
Yeah, and I don't mean to say California's the best place, because obviously where you are, there's a lot of strong incentives. There's a lot of EV and plug-in penetration as well. Even with your horrible weather, Mark, right? Like, I don't mean
horrible weather.
But again, one of the common complaints with EVs and hybrids has always been any kind of battery-driven car, you can't drive it during the winter.
Yeah, well, that is not the case. Yeah.
Yes, that's bullshit. You can drive them, and in many ways, there's some unique advantages to that. So,
well, just like you mentioned about being a CARB state, we have some generous incentives here in Ontario. And what we found is that the cars are certainly on a huge uptick. And there are some models that are selling better than ICE cars. For example, in Chevy stable, I believe the Volt has now outsold the Camaro for 3 straight quarters. Wow. So there's an explosion here because of the rebate that's being offered.
So the skeptic's going to say, look, you have to give all this money to the government. It's the only reason these are supported, though, right?
That is part of the argument, but the incentive to have people change their minds or look at something, I think it's a pretty strong. Once people get the EV bug and they get bit by it, I don't think they're going back. Like I would say 90% of the people that I meet with EVs in my area love them and will not go back to a regular gas car because they love the benefits of it more and more as time goes along.
Right. Maybe like 20% off your first purchase to get you to become a customer. You know.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hi, Dr.
And gas cars.
Everybody says hi, Tamara.
Another Dr. Fusco.
Hi.
Guest appearance.
Always nice to see the prettier Dr. Fusco.
It is, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I wanted to say gas cars are subsidized too. People just don't realize that because that's the way things have been for a long time. The price that you pay at the pump is far from the actual price, and over the lifetime, a typical gas car has incentives of over $12,000. So a $7,500 federal incentive is actually saving the taxpayers money.
There you go.
And
boom.
That doesn't take into account, I'm going to guess, Patrick, collateral damage from burning fossil fuels.
Oh, right. Yeah, the externalities absolutely have healthcare costs and all kinds of other costs that are not as easily measured.
Right. Absolutely.
And matter a lot.
So you can maybe you love gas and that's cool. That's fine. But again,
you can still get an electric car and run a generator to charge it if you really love gas.
No, don't tell him with that damn generator. Just every morning, get in there and burn dirty coal.
Hey, but then you have a choice. You have freedom of choice right there. EVs give you freedom.
Right. Absolutely. Well, speaking of freedom, and I have no idea why that's a segue, so forgive me. Mark has a story about something that I honestly didn't even think existed. So I have to kind of take a step back and go, holy shit, there's at least one?
Yes, in Pebble Beach, California, there's been an oddity driving around on the roads there recently, which is called the VW ID Buzz. So they've been on a PR junket where they're pushing the acceptance of this car going to production. So we've got the small microbus electrified that we've seen a number of different times in a few different iterations of the car. But they were in Pebble Beach this past week to announce that the car is now going to go to production. And they're going to start producing these vehicles. Now, what they showed here is basically a model that was designed to be on a show floor, and that's about it. Because I believe the car's top speed is about 25 miles per hour. But because this is just a show car, that's all it is. Right. And of course, some of the things are still wrong. Like for example, the mirrors are cameras, the side mirrors. The steering wheel is a unfathomable rectangle with rounded edges. So there's a series of problems with the prototype they have showing here. But this was generated, to make buzz, hence the name. And that's why that particular version is in Pebble Beach. So a number of different media outlets were given the opportunity to drive the vehicle at the blazing hot speed of 25 miles per hour, holding up traffic. But this is VW, who is trying desperately to get news and a good news story for themselves.
They'd have been better off with a Faraday Future half cutout vehicle than
no, they wouldn't have. They wouldn't have been. They wouldn't have better with the Faraday Future. Come on, give them some credit.
Oh, 25?
It's a little bit better than a styrofoam vehicle, is it not?
My new toy Tesla can kick that thing's ass. That's sad. Oh
that's like throwing down the gauntlet to VW right there. Like, here's my toy against your toy.
See, I have an electric golf cart that goes that fast. That's terrible.
Now, again, this is a show vehicle. They're just drumming up PR. That's what they're doing with this vehicle.
God. But
right.
they've been touting out this concept.
They even strapped the surfboards to the roof.
Oh, yeah. And that actually irritates the shit out of me.
Yeah, it might be able to go 26 miles an hour without the surfboards on the roof.
Yeah, they've been touting out this concept microbus for, I don't know, 5 years now. We've seen it over and over again.
Yeah, it's been at least 4.
When I saw this article, I was like, oh, there's Russell's rant. I thought for sure that. Yeah, they get no credit for bringing out another concept and making promises. And this is not a real vehicle. It's a concept car. Concept cars are not production intent by any means, especially this one. The seats are on tracks, so you can spin them around when it's in full autonomous mode. And that rectangular steering wheel retracts into the dash. And, okay, they're not going to start making and selling those next year.
2022.
Yeah. Well,
it's
easy. They've aggressively announced a 5-year timeline to build this car.
Yeah. They get nothing.
I agree. It's cute. And if it was a production vehicle, I would be delighted.
People are dying for this vehicle. They would love it. They would absolutely love it. The nostalgia factor of the vehicle, having a large battery in it that'll get you 250 miles, it would sell like hotcakes.
But
it just has to be made.
They just don't want to make them. Yeah. Well, while we're picking on the Germans, go ahead, Angela Merkel. I'm ready for you. I don't have it's not my rant, but there's a story on Inside EVs, and the headline is, and I quote, "Electric vehicles are changing how Audi names its cars." Our friend Sebastian Blanco, who is a gentleman and a scholar and a darn nice guy, wrote a very nice article, which I have to admit I am nowhere near bright enough to figure out. Basically, if you're familiar with Audi vehicles at all, the model name it signified what it was, roughly. You know, it kind of told you what was going on with the vehicle. And you could kind of figure out from the name what it was, which makes a good deal of sense. Mr. Blanco's point here is that electric vehicles are changing this, and that Audi's going to some sort of utterly incomprehensible system. And I'm going to, hope that one of the smarter people on this panel, which is everybody but me, maybe, can figure it out. But apparently it has something to do with the output of the motor. Maybe it's in kilowatts, maybe it's in kilometers. I'm not really sure. Maybe it's in kilometer watts. I don't know. The thing that I thought was interesting, and I don't do this very often. In fact, I don't even usually read them. But the thing that I liked about this story was the comment, and someone by the name of Tosho, Tosho, no avatar, thank you very much. But I want to read Tosho's comment in its entirety. Quote, "The entire ICE car industry is being outright nuked, and all they do is dig even deeper in their meaningless bullshit. This story, compared to Tesla's idea to simply remove most of the brandings from their cars, is a screaming example of how the automotive industry is wasting most of its energy on pointless garbage instead of simply building better cars."
That is an excellent point.
It really is.
Very well said.
I couldn't agree more. I know what a P90D is.
Yep.
And I know that lots of people out there don't, and that's okay. It's just like,
But
I don't know what a
simple.
55 TFSI Quattro is.
Yeah. And then they have this table here where they're trying to explain how they
And I don't.
are mapping from the electric motor output into what numbers they'll be using. And
Yeah.
okay, so
it's not super clear.
so if the motor has 400 kilowatt hours of power, then it's a 70, and if it has 110 to 120, then it's a 35.
Because
35 is half
Yeah.
of 70, but 100 is not half of 400. I'm doing some basic math here. I don't understand their metrics here at all.
No, it's a clearly discernible hierarchy. Didn't you read their statement?
Yes,
Yeah.
clearly.
And
Bigger means better.
yes, and
On a scale that we make up as we go.
yeah, not getting this at all. What is the TFSI stand for?
That's one of their magic ice engines.
What does it mean?
You know what? I used to know this actually.
Right, even when he's explaining it in the article. Okay, the 3.0 means it has a 3.0 liter.
Got it.
A4,
Right.
3.0, TFSI Quattro. And you lose me after the 3.0.
Yeah, I got the A4. I got the Quattro is 4 valves, right?
4-wheel drive.
Oh,
Turbocharged fuel stratified injection is TFSI. This is
turbocharged fuel.
Yeah.
What?
turbocharged fuel stratified injection. This is a bullshit brand name for turbo.
Okay.
And we've seen this from a bunch of different German car companies, from Audi, from VW, from Mercedes. SI. Okay, cool.
Okay.
But it's not. It's you're shoving some air in the motor, right? Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
It's fuel injection.
having gotten the mystery, and I need to thank our friend Edward Niedermeyer for this. I picked this up off his Twitter feed, and this is a delightful little story. Apparently, prosecutors in Germany have found documents showing that thousands of Audi vehicles were exported to Asian countries. VIN number. Now, we don't know why. We don't know what advantage there is in this. This is not the way things are supposed to work. Every vehicle is supposed to have a 17-digit alphanumeric VIN number that is uniquely identifiable for a 30-year period. And for some reason, is it just that they like to cheat? Is that what it is? Is there something in them that just says, we're going to fuck with the system because that's what we do? I don't even know what could possibly be the advantage.
These are new cars, right?
Vehicles, yeah. And I guess it's just sort of a little bit of sidelight. Understand that Audi builds vehicles in Asia, but the very desirable ones are the ones that are imported from the EU, from Germany, into Asia. Apparently the Asian market values those cars more, and they sell faster. They sell for more money. And again, why this VIN number thing should maybe just the VIN number girl was out that week. It's sort of like the Audi naming system. I can't really figure it out, but there it is.
That is really strange. Why they would, like you said, not cover for that girl's vacation time. That's really bizarre. That they're all with the same VIN number.
I don't
like. Why bother? You may as well just have a blank VIN.
Yeah, we just didn't put numbers on.
Yeah,
it. Write on a grease pencil or something. Who cares? I mean, I get VIN numbers are important, but apparently Audi's. Yeah, what the hell? Who cares?
Maybe that's a way to avoid warranty work. No, that already came in with service for that, sir.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sorry.
Your VIN number was covered already. Sorry.
I like that. We actually didn't make that car, sir. I have no idea. And nobody else here. Nobody has a theory of why.
No, I don't
Fair
have
enough.
any idea.
I understand. It's Evan. You're watching a sports event, aren't you?
No, actually, worse.
You're watching porn?
No,
Worse?
I'll share it with you later. Not appropriate
I'm
for
going
the
to pass
show.
on that. Yeah, let's not do that. Well, I'm going to deftly now turn it over to Patrick Connor, who might have a story that makes a little more sense.
I sure hope so. Well, the bar is pretty low, so it's easy to do there. This is an article on my blog, carswithcords.net, and I'm really just wondering aloud for the dual motor for my Tesla Model 3. And for the TLDR, it's going to be my wife's car, so we're going to wait because she says so.
Oh, decision made.
And, yeah. So we live in a little bit of a mountain area here, and we get snow at least 2 days a year. So got to have it because you need it 2 days a year. And the Tesla delivery estimator says that we should get our car in the June to August time frame, so about a year from now. And that brings up the question, will the federal incentives still be in full effect 1 year from now? And that is right on the edge. It all depends on when they ship that 200,000th car. If it's April 1st or later, I'm golden. And if it's sometime before April 1st, then we're going to be at half the incentive. So, and this is for a day one of a Tesla owner on the West Coast. So on those, I have a pretty good spot. If you're anywhere else in the country, if you wait for dual motor, miss the incentive. But we don't know for sure because we don't know when they're actually going to cross that. But that's my guess at this point. So it's going to cost about $5,000 more, I'm guessing, for the dual motor. And then if we miss half the incentive, there's another $3,750. And so now that it's costing us almost $9,000 to get dual motor. And go ahead.
I had that car towed a few times for $9,000.
Yeah, remember the TLDR. It's gonna happen this way.
Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So let's see. The picture on your page is showing July to September, but you're in June to August.
Yes. That was my July to September is what it was initially, and now they've updated it to June to August. So it pulled in a little bit. And the nice thing about it saying June to August is September would be in the next quarter, where August is in the end of Q2. No, do I have that wrong? No, I have it at the end of. It's June. Yeah, so the end of. So that's in Q3 still. Yeah.
Right. So, we talked about this a little bit on the Tesla Life last show, and my range for the dual motor is also June to August. And for our first reservation, which I made on March 31st, the night of the reveal, and then I made the second reservation the next morning, so April 1st, and that one's July to September. So it's a whole month later shift. And we've had the same debate discussion, should we just bite the bullet and get a base model and $7,500 off, and you're getting, a $2,700 or $27,000 car. That's a pretty good car, but smaller battery pack and such, but guaranteed to get the $7,500 off, or wait for the dual, which we really prefer, but may lose the incentive, and so it costs you that much more. And who's to say that Tesla isn't going to raise some of the prices, but between now and then too.
Right. There's a lot of unknowns.
I'm sorry, Patrick.
No, go ahead. There's a lot of unknowns still, and I have time to make the final decision. But I just want to keep track of all the factors that I can to try to make it with the most data.
Can they raise the price if they haven't committed to a Model 3 price yet?
The dual motor price is not announced officially, as far as I know.
Okay.
But that doesn't sound so that they won't necessarily change the price on the base, but they'll change the price on the accessories, or they'll change the way you can configure it so that if you want the premium upgrades, that's significantly higher. They do lots of those same little tricky things that a lot of other car companies do, that ultimately end up increasing the price. And maybe if you want the air suspension, you have to pay extra to get that if you want your car before the end of 2018. And that a lot of it's going to depend on, I think, what suppliers are able to bring them and how fast they ramp production and what the demand stays.
Right.
And if like you said, if Tesla becomes even more successful in selling the X and the S, that time frame jumps on you. So they could reach the 200,000 quicker than what was estimated.
Right.
And during Elon's couple of interviews after the reveal, didn't Tesla indicate that they've had more sales in the S and X than expected?
Yeah.
They did. Yep. The 3 did not cannibalize the S and X market. To their, they were concerned about that, and it did not happen. So that's good for Tesla, the company. Maybe not so good for me getting that incentive, but that's okay.
Right.
I was just going to say, so as people with Tesla, with Model 3s on order, all 3 of you, I mean, you're kind of in a way cheering for the production to stay low until you get your cars, aren't you?
Kind of.
But then you get your cars later.
Yeah.
Right.
It's an interesting catch-22.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, this time I'm not in a big hurry. We've talked about that on this one. I actually need a little time to make a decision of exactly what I want to do and what direction I want to go. I need my kids to figure out where they're going to college, and so I actually need a little time to figure out exactly what purchase I'm going to make. Is it going to be 1 loaded car or 2 base cars? And so for me, it works out the longer it stretches out.
No.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Tesla is sometime in like Q1 of next year that they keep producing, but they stop delivering, and they buy a big warehouse, rent it out, just fill up parking lots and random spots all over, and then just drop 50,000 of them at once, April 2nd. That would be nice.
I agree. I would hope that they would do some of that, but I don't know if they will.
Stack them like cordwood.
Because you got to believe that a number of people that have put in an order and are not already Tesla owners, there's a number of people out there that are going to be price sensitive. So if they are out of the market for the $7,500 federal credit, some of them may just drop out completely. Would you think that's plausible?
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't go to 0. It cuts in half. So that is. If depending on how price sensitive they are, you're right. That could be a factor.
Yeah, it's a very interesting.
And in our situation here in Ontario, we have a $14,000 incentive from the provincial government, but we also have a provincial election this May. And if another party gets into power, that $14,000 could disappear overnight. So we're sitting in a situation where people want the cars now as the ruling government is in place, because who knows what's going to happen in May.
I want to just, since we have a minute here, Mark and I were talking before the show about the way Tesla's rolling out the Model 3, and let's not so much in numbers, but do you guys think there'd be any advantage in them in shipping some percentage of their production now and earlier than they intend to like Canada and to the East Coast, rather than filling up California, and which is really what they're doing? I mean,
I think they're going to have a problem with that because of they're really beta testing with employees and people that are close to home base. I think that's what's going on.
Initial batch, but we're going to assume that pretty soon they're going to be in production.
Yeah, they're supposed to be ramping up aggressively for the next few months. But I don't know. Do they want more orders? Do they want a bunch of cars to come out to the East Coast and people say, "I'm on this. Let me put down my 1,000 and I'm joining the list"? I don't know.
That would be interesting. Instead of going West Coast to East Coast, instead you sprinkle them around to have them be attention. I don't know. Well, see, that would be selling the vehicle.
Yeah.
And right now they're anti-selling it. So there's no need to use them as a PR by peppering them across the country. And East Coast, understand going to Canada, that helps with they can time the incentive better. Going to the East Coast doesn't help with that either. So I'm going to say no for those two reasons.
Okay.
I like it for delaying the onset of the incentive reasons, though.
Ship them all to Canada. Yes.
Yeah.
I like my idea of just stocking them up.
Yeah.
Yeah, just putting them in a warehouse somewhere, and all of a sudden, like, we're going to deliver 100,000 Model 3s this week. I just, from a marketing perspective, and again, Patrick, you're right. They're anti-selling it. They want to sell Model S. They want to sell Model X. They're doing everything they can to sell Model 3, but, they've got a year and a half's worth of orders at least. So, but still, I mean, I'm not sure how that hurts them. If rather than sending a 5,000 piece batch to California, they send it to the East Coast or they send it to Canada. I'm not sure how that hurts them. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't help them though, and that's enough. So, okay.
Other than they have announced their plan and people already have that expectation, and now they're giving these delivery estimates. And if you find out that somebody on the East Coast got it before you, when you're like, hey, I should not, how'd they line jump me? I ordered the premium package. I'm on the West Coast. Why is this guy on the East Coast got it?
Right. Yep. Fair enough. Yeah. You don't want to break a promise either. That's reasonable. Well, that's all the news I got for this week. I guess I should. No, I don't. Right. Excuse me. Mark has the final story this week.
Interesting story that's come in from LG Electronics, who happened to build a number of components for the Chevy Bolt EV. They've announced that they're going to be opening up a new part plant in Michigan, and will be supplying a new 250,000 square foot facility in Hazel Park. Which will be opening and running for production by 2018. So as we've seen, there has been some constraint in Chevy Bolt production. A lot of the parts for that car do come from LG, a lot of the components to make that car, including the battery pack and a number of other systems. So LG is ramping up in Michigan and putting a new factory in place. And this goes to a larger issue that we discussed a little bit in the previous show as well, that there are a number of manufacturers that are constrained by parts, that they can't get all the parts or battery packs that they need to put in the cars. What comes to mind quickly is the Iconic. We've got a car that is wildly successful that could be more if the parts were available to produce more. So there are a number of different manufacturers that are starting to figure out that EVs are catching on across the country, and they are wanted in many different areas, and production is going to have to ramp up in a number of these areas in order for them to produce. So this is a small story, not too much of a large plant, but it is people moving in the right direction. So a little good news on the EV front as manufacturers start to realize that they're going to need to ramp up, and in order to do that, they're going to need more parts and more factories and more people building them.
And as I think it wasn't it was either you or Evan on the Tesla Life show pointed out, this really highlights the advantage that Tesla has with the Gigafactory already pumping out batteries with an existing supercharger network. I mean, as far as deploying EVs, Tesla's way far ahead of all of these other companies.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's something that they're playing catch up, and they will be playing catch up for years. But as we know, Tesla went into this full-heartedly a long time ago. They knew they were going to build and have a large factory in order to get the scale that they needed to get the price down and for it to become a midstream vehicle and for them to become a larger manufacturer of vehicles. So their plan, Elon Musk's master plan, certainly is something that is not a surprise. They have had this mapped out for quite some time. Other auto manufacturers may have bet against them, thinking that maybe this movement would snuff out over time or not be as intense as it's starting to be. And now they're starting to realize that, hey, we gotta move if we're going to be in this game. And it looks like this game is real to us now.
Yeah, I think that you nailed it right there. They tried to ignore it. They tried to say it was just some fad, that fuel cells are going to be the next thing. They've had all sorts of excuses. And I think only now is it the market loud and clear saying that you can see that we talked about how at the Model 3 reveal, that must have been a wake-up call for a lot of people in the auto executive boardrooms.
Absolutely.
And here's the result.
Yeah.
We're building more factories now to make more parts, to build more electric cars.
Yeah, and that's that's a good thing for our industry. And if they're late to the party, understandably, but better late than never, I guess. And more competition will spur better and more cars, and I applaud that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm glad to see LG doing this because it's good. Especially if it's going to help Chevy develop more electric vehicles, or at least continue to sell the Bolt. That's not a bad thing. But it is interesting to point out that Tesla's all-in strategy seems to have been the right one.
Yep.
Or did they really, did they create the market just in their own way? Like it's amazing that they put this plan in motion and have been able to follow it all these years, ever since the creation of the Roadster. And you know what? They've hit the mark every time. It's almost like they've created it themselves, through them having a master plan and walking through these things specifically.
They certainly have created a market. I mean, who else was selling EVs, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to ignore Nissan or Mitsubishi, the mighty i-MiEV, which Mitsubishi was 400 of those. But either way, I mean, Tesla certainly has to be given credit for doing what they did to create as much EV interest as they have. You can't say that about Toyota, or Hyundai, or Honda.
Yeah, that was one of the things in the documentary Revenge of the Electric Car. You see when they're interviewing Bob Lutz, and he directly credits Tesla with the Volt being even made possible within the company at that time. He was saying, if this California company can do this, we can do our own. And without Tesla, he wouldn't even have started the fight, and certainly not been able to win it. I think they clearly show that in the documentary.
Yeah. Oh, that film's bullshit. We know that.
Shout out to Chris Payne.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, hi, Chris.
Just kidding, buddy. Just kidding. Save me a seat at Burning Man, okay? That's all I got this week. You guys have anything else?
The market seemed to like LG Chem's move. Their stock's at a 5-year high.
Wow.
Is it really? I didn't notice that.
Wow. Interesting.
Nice.
Just a short note on if we're going to move to shoutouts. I happened to be on assignment last week. That's why I wasn't here, and was happy to go to the Chevy Volt and Bolt silent cruise in downtown Detroit. Well, a little bit north of downtown Detroit on Woodward Avenue, just outside the city limits. I don't know if you guys know this, but they have a cruise week on Woodward. It's called the Dream Cruise on Woodward. And Woodward is like a 8-lane road that runs the main thoroughfare right down to downtown Detroit, and then, of course, out to the northwest. And this is a massive festival for a week where everybody and their cars, whatever they are, cruise up and down for miles on this street. And people come out with lawn chairs, and there's a festive thing going on where they're selling food, and people are taking in the cruise for a couple hours or 3 or 4 hours every night. Wow. And it's a huge to-do that they have in the Detroit, the greater Detroit area. So we were lucky enough to be invited to the silent cruise, which allowed Volt and Bolt, ELR, and Sparks. There were no Sparks at this particular one, but anybody with a Chevy electric car were invited to attend. And I got a few photos I'll flash up. This is us as we're getting ready to head down there. And there's GM headquarters, of course, is in downtown Detroit, right on the river. And a river shot. And then, of course, we're getting into the, it was held at a local hotel. And everyone met in the back. And the cars started to fill up the spaces as the night went on. So at the end of the night, I think there was about 85 cars total. And they were indicating that they hold this event every year. And this was one of their largest turnouts that they've ever had. And you can tell this guy's a Detroit Tiger fan. And this guy had a custom paint job. So that's not a stock color for a Volt. He's obviously a Remax agent, and he's colored his car with paint. It wasn't a decal. It was actually paint. And, man, was it a bright yellow.
I like that OSHA safety yellow, yeah.
And if you haven't seen this, there's an ELR. So this is the Cadillac version of the Volt that certainly didn't sell all that well, most likely because of the cost.
Or that commercial.
Or the commercial, yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we had a number of different custom plates that were there. So some Volt plates were present, many MPG. There's a 2 for 2. That guy's from Ontario. And we got a Regenerate.
That's good.
USA Jobs. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right on.
And Clean Energy. There was Bolt EVs there, obviously. So you had the namesake. Here's a car, a Volt that he uses in some class races, and the 3HS indicate the class that he belongs to for his racing in his second generation Volt. And then we're filling up here as we're getting further into the evening. And it was great. And then off you go. There was a police escort to get you out onto Woodward, and all 85 cars were released at the same time. And what was really cool is when we were driving down the road, we had so many people as we came to stops or lights or slowdowns in traffics, and people were just saying, "Look at all the Volts. Where are they all coming from?" And they were kind of shocked that many EVs were out on the road in a pack, and that was kind of cool. So, yeah, I had a great time, and I look forward to it next year. And if anyone is in the Detroit area, set your calendars for mid-August. It's always held, and it's called the Dream Cruise. And Chevy has a night where they bring the Volt and the Bolts out.
And I suspect if you follow WR Voltec on Twitter, you might even...
might even find out about the actual date when it gets a little closer. Yes, indeed.
See? WR Voltec on Twitter. Thanks. Anything else, Mark? You want to?
Nope. Thanks very much.
Okay. Patrick, you sound quite imperious, kind of sitting back like this. And I see you grab your mic every once in a while. He's lounging today. You're kind of chilling out.
Yep. I am. My summer vacation is almost over, and I got to enjoy it while I can. Yeah. So, are we doing shout outs now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I've got one. My buddies Jeb and Tom do this event every year. It's the last Saturday of August, and it's the PDX Golf Pub Crawl. So it's a pub crawl around Portland. This time we're doing it in Northwest Portland. And you can find the map on Facebook. You just search for PDX Golf Pub Crawl. It kicks off at noon. And we walk around the city going from bar to bar. And it's got a funny golf scoring theme. And It ends at the Max stop, so you can take Max home and not drink and drive, and it's a good time. There you go. There's my shout out.
All right. Evan.
All right. I have a shout out this week. Thank you to Xu Ling Yang, who I do not know, but who apparently used my referral code and bought a Tesla of some sort and earned me this fine child's electric Tesla. But I do appreciate we think it's a her. And hopefully she found us either through a Tesla Life or What Drives Us. And I appreciate her very much. And if anybody else needs a referral code to save $1,000 on a Tesla, give me a holler. I'll be glad to share that with you.
There you go. Because Evan needs more kitty cars, I guess.
He's going to build an amusement park,
So
one car at a time.
So now what we talked about, my next referral, though, gets me another set of those rims that I had before. And then you can get an invitation to the reveal for the Tesla semi truck unveiling. And then if I get 5 more than I already have, so a total of 6 referrals, they just announced today that you get to go to Hawthorne, California and drive Elon's boring machine and bore a hole in the ground as your reward. So
anywhere you want.
Apparently, yeah.
That is something money can't buy, or at least
that is
normal amounts of money. You can go buy.
And of course, the 10th referral will get you strapped to the outside of the Falcon Heavy.
Yes.
You win a trip to Mars. That's level 10. We haven't got there yet.
Everybody's going to Mars. I went all Oprah on you there. Well, congratulations, Evan. I look forward to seeing video of you in the little car. I can't wait for your review.
I'll line up all 3 of our Teslas and go.
Yeah, exactly. I got 3 now. 3. As always, I want to thank Michael Manring for our amazing theme music. You can visit him at manthing.com. You can find him on CD Baby and iTunes. Always encourage you to go buy his music because we very much appreciate him letting us use his music for free. Thank you, Michael. As always, our main website, whatdrives.us, is a place where you can go to download or stream the show in audio or video format. You can read articles that have been written by some of the people you see here, not by me. I don't write because I'm not so good with the words. But no, that's not true. Actually, I do write. But we're not going to talk. Whatdrives.us is our main site. Probably the center of our fun, though, is at Facebook. It's facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Strangely enough, you can ask us questions there. You can read the news that we post every day and interact, whatever. Sometimes we even pull news off of there for the show. So not a bad place to go. Go to facebook.com/whatdrivesus. Like the page, please, and share it with your friends. Maybe and we would appreciate that very much. Finally, on Twitter, we're at Twitter at What Drives Us. Oddly enough, no spaces, no underscores, nothing weird. At What Drives Us. Follow us there, and every once in a while we'll send you a little tweet. We're not heavy spammers on the Twitter thing. So, otherwise, all I have to do is say thank you to Evan Fusco, Patrick Connor, Mark Coughlin for showing up and making a great show this week. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Russell.
And, of course, thanks to all of you, because without you, we don't do this show. I mean, we might, just because we like that. But it's more fun to do it for people and to get the letters that we get every once in a while, Little Timmy wants to know. No, we don't get those letters. It's not that kind of
No, we get lawyer letters.
Yeah. Usually it's just at the top. I can't imagine what that... I don't even know what that phrase means. So, anyway, thanks to all of you. Tune in next week and find out what drives us. See you next week.